Howdy, I'm John Mark Dempsey, and here we are with Mario Villarino from Hopkins County AgriLife. And here recently we had a chat about trees in Hopkins County, and mostly I got off into talking about older trees and taking care of them. But Mario put out a news release here recently in general about trees and covers a lot about planting new trees, and we never really got to that, so we'll continue with that discussion. So you made the point in the last conversation that we had, if you live on a property with a lot of older trees, you probably ought to be planting some newer trees.
Absolutely, and that's called tree succession, where, especially if that's something that your family or yourself, have as a desire to maintain trees, is those younger trees that it takes a little while to get, in complete adult stage and actually a chance to survive. So it's part of the process to maintaining a landscape, to have new trees coming in, a variety of trees coming in that actually will take place of those other older trees.
Now, we live in the country in Delta County, not too far west of the Hopkins County line. But we have been very fortunate in that, of course, the existing trees drop
babies,
their seeds or acorns or whatever or pecans in some case, and we have had new trees start up just without even having to do anything to.
Right, and that's great because you give them the opportunity to fight and have a little chance to survive. I think it gets more complicated in city lots when people mow them more often because there's a lawn underneath. So there's really that tree's been sitting by itself for decades without any replacement coming down the line.
Of course, the unfortunate thing is that some will have an oak that will start in the flower bed, right next to the foundation. Well, you'd love to have the oak, but you can't have a big oak tree coming up.
And by the time they realize, it takes several decades. It's like too late.
Right. So now you made, just a moment ago, made the point of the work that we do, lawn care work. You have to be careful about that around trees, right?
Extremely. And when you look about the well-being, you cannot really associate the two at the same time. I think when I look at people that really care about trees, they have to make a decision which priority is going to be on the landscape, because anything that is close to that tree is going to potentially jeopardize their existence.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of the trees that are best to plant in Hopkins
If you're
County?
looking for a fast-growing tree, the Chinese pistache is one of those trees that actually is being recommended by the state as one of those varieties that grow very fast, and you can actually see them on the lifespan of from a small little tree to being an adult before too late. And pecans are always a good option too.
Chinese pistache.
Yes, it looks very similar to a pecan tree, but it's a fast-growing tree, and it's one of those Texas superstars that.
It's not a native tree, then.
It's not. It's actually imported, but it's been adopted by many parks and landscapes because it grows fairly quickly.
And there certain types of oaks are.
Yes, live oaks are preferable than post oaks. Post oaks have a tendency to not adapt very well to human activities.
I see.
And that's where it gets a little compromised when people select a site with a lot of post oak and they start losing them quickly. And when I mean quickly, it's a decline. You see a tree deteriorating in decades, and if you're not careful with that, a secondary infection can jeopardize their future.
So the fall and early spring are the best time for planting?
It is, and at this point, one of the things that our community is doing is evaluating those adult trees, looking into the ones they have lost because of the storm, and start planting new successions. Yeah.
But not the summer and not
in the summer. It gets a little complicated, especially because of the dry spells. But start looking into that. Start talking to your families about, making a selection. If you're going to go into the foliage or the landscaping tree, there's a lot of good options out there.
We're going to run out of time, but before I would like to, but watering, of course, is important. But now again, in our situation, we have several acres. You can't easily get water to all of those existing.
That's why survival is so critical. In that situation, some trees will adapt better to your conditions, and that's why you have to have several types that they will survive in your landscape.
But if you live in town, then it's generally
once a month. a good soaking once a month. You're not watering the lawn. You're watering the tree.
Now, are we talking about existing trees?
Existing trees.
And what about new trees?
New trees, depending on the time that you plant them, you want to water them weekly until they take on before they get into the winter.
But about once a month for
an adult
for
tree.
an existing
Yes,
tree.
Existing tree. You're looking for a deep root system, and that will take care of that.
Another thing I thought was interesting in your news release was you talk about pruning.
Yes.
And that's best to do during the dormant.
Correct. And that's one of those things that sometimes people miss that window, and they're pruning too intensively that they actually affect the health of that tree. If you do it during the time when that photosynthesis is needed, which is during your spring, summer season, you really is not recommended to actually touch them during that time.
So the winter is the best time
whenever it's already getting dormant
for pruning. Good. Okay. Well, we're about out of time here, but we could carry this conversation on much further, and I'm sure we'll come to it again.
Absolutely.
One of these days. Okay.
Thank you for having me.
All right, great. Mario Villarino is Hopkins County AgriLife Extension Agent, and I'm John Mark Dempsey. This is KSST.